to put your clothes on and do the kinds of things we expect every child to do, we still can't do with the robots of and the AIs of 1990.
Once so promising, the fortunes of artificial intelligence now looked bleak indeed. In 1972, Hubert Dreyfus wrote a history cataloging the failures of AI called What Computers Can't Do. The same year in Britain, funding for projects like Freddie was cut off following a scathing report of AI's progress by Sir James Lighthill.
In no part of the field have the discoveries made produced the major impact that was promised.
I'm going to describe very briefly.
Minsky and his colleagues didn't give up. They set about working on machine learning and on how to represent knowledge in computers so that computers could use that knowledge to resolve ambiguity in language. One project did succeed. Terry Winograd's program, Schlurdlu, could use English intelligently, but there was a catch. The only subject you could discuss was a micro-world of simulated blocks.
Find the block which is taller than the one you are holding and put it into the box. In this case, it needs to do a whole set of things, one of which is figure out what is meant by words like one and it. We use those in normal everyday language in a way which has to be interpreted by looking at the context in which they appear. In this case, it types back out, by it, I assume you mean a block which is taller than the one I am holding, which is only one of several possible things I could have meant, and needed to use a set of rules of thumb about how people use words like that in order to decide, in this case, which one I intended.
Despite Winograd's achievements, people outside AI circles were not impressed. Some predicted that artificial intelligence was doomed. But AI would not die out. In the dark years ahead, this man, Edward Feigenbaum, would somewhat restore AI's fortune. He realized that while micro-worlds might not be very large, they might be large enough to be useful. He reasoned that the intelligence displayed by experts, scientists, doctors, specialists, might be as easy to capture, if not easier, than a world of simulated blocks. Feigenbaum started with the expertise chemists use when reading a mass spectrograph trace like this, and interpreting it as a three-dimensional structure like this. Feigenbaum and his colleagues captured the rules in a system called Dendrol. Now a computer program was expert in a small area of chemistry. Other so-called expert systems followed, like this one, which simulated how geologists find mineral deposits. All kinds of areas of medicine and science where the knowledge used was deep but very narrow succumbed to Feigenbaum's approach. Paradoxically, these admired specialties were easier for the computer to simulate. There was much less ambiguity, and they were not very large.
When you actually codify this knowledge and put it to work, it turns out that you can achieve expert behavior in useful but narrow areas with a few hundred pieces of knowledge, maybe a few thousand pieces of knowledge. Experts are often shocked and startled to find out that in the end it amounted to a few hundred rules. Is that all I learned? Is that what I'm doing every day? I'm really exercising just a few hundred rules? All of me that relates to this task can be canned in a few hundred rules?
But where a human expert knows many things outside his specialty, the same is not true of an expert system. Outside their field of knowledge, they are hopeless.
So you get a blood disease analysis program. It's brilliant at deciding which blood disease the patient has on the basis of a lot of objective tests, like the sugar in the blood, presumably, and the red cells and the white cells and a lot of more complicated things. It will tell you what kind of, say, meningitis that is, and it will tell you with more reliability than your family doctor. Terrific. But if you ask it, what is a germ? It doesn't have the slightest idea. Or what is a patient? Or do people prefer to live or die? Then it breaks down. That's the brittleness.
There was an expert system which had to approve or not approve automobile loans. And it granted a loan to someone who put down that they had 20 years of experience on the same job, even though they also put down that they were only 19 years old. Another situation like that of brittleness that I saw firsthand on a system that was done in France for skin disease diagnosis. As a kind of joke, we told it about my 1980 Chevy. And it asked questions like, are there spots on the body? And he said yes. What color spots? Reddish brown. How old is the patient? 10 years old. And it eventually said the child has measles.
The brittleness of expert systems has been likened to the fascinating condition of idiosavantism. David is an idiosavant, a human being brilliantly gifted in one small area, but backward in every other sense.
What was the 17th of December, 1974?
It was a Thursday.
The 10th of June, 1917.
It was a Sunday.
The 1st of March, 2044.
It'll be a Thursday.
There aren't any calendars that far ahead, but it's again absolutely correct.
Can you tell me what 8 add on 7 is? If you take 8 and add 7 to it.
It will make 14.
8 and 7's 14?
It is.
Okay, it's not, you don't think it's 15?